we're just going to talk about this. This is going to be completely unedited. I'm going to try not to make it very long. I thought this was a good place to share my GLP-1 experience. If you happen to follow me on other platforms, I have been talking for years about body confidence and feeling good in your vessel. And that is something I still believe, which is why it was so hard for me to come to this place. I am starting week 3 of being on a GLP-1, but I want to tell you why. Now, I am not going to lie. I never thought I would be here. I have lived in a slightly larger body for most of my adult life. I think it's important to say that I would have been classified as overweight, not obese. And that is something that I have always been pretty fine with. That is the state of my body, and that worked for me. However, I also am someone that was diagnosed when I was 13 years old with hypothyroidism. It is something that I have struggled with since then, kind of regulating my levels and fatigue. And in the last few years, I have made progress. So I think it's important to clarify that my thyroid levels have been monitored and stable for a very long time now. However, in the last few years, I started to experience other symptoms. I definitely entered perimenopause, and at this point, I think we might be like, done, she's gone, goodbye. But what I started to notice, along with like hot flashes and all the other stuff, was something didn't feel right. I started to experience like very extreme levels of inflammation. In fact, I ended up going to a rheumatologist. They thought at one point that I had some type of arthritis. I did work with my general practitioner and my endocrinologist for about a year doing blood work. And yes, the blood work did show that I had very high levels of inflammation. So here we are. Back in June, it is currently September. It's currently September. Back in June, after going through all of these options, trying an anti-inflammatory diet, all of these things just to feel better, my doctor finally said, you know, there is one other option. We have seen some really good data around GLP-1 medications and inflammation. And we went through the process of trying to get it approved by my insurance. It was not approved. So here we are, it is September, and I kind of at that point said, well, if the insurance isn't going to cover it, then I'm not going to do it. But things got worse and worse. I started to feel just extreme levels of fatigue, very severe inflammation, and I work full-time as a content creator. I ended up being connected with Mochi to do a project with them that actually was not about GLP-1 medication, but was about like their general nutritional services. And in researching the company, I started to think, what if? So I think it's important to clarify, this is not in partnership with them. I spent my own money on this medication, the same as any of you would. I had the exact same experience. So what I finally decided was to just give this a try and see. So I paid the money, which is a $79 membership fee every month. And then the medication that I am on is tirzepatide. I say it wrong every time. A compound version with B12. And that is $199 a month. So I ran a half marathon recently. I decided I was going to wait to try this after the half marathon. And I came home the day after my race, injected the first shot, and waited for the side effects. Spoiler, I've had minimal side effects so far. We're about to do shot number 3 later today, so that is 3 weeks in. What I did feel were the following things. Within 3 hours, I started to feel the inflammation leaving my body. I don't know how else to explain it. My joints were less sore. It was almost like the pressure that I felt in like my hips and my legs was leaving. I've struggled with extreme fatigue for the last few years, as in I drank 5 cups of coffee a day, maybe 6, and some energy drinks, and was still tired, still needed a nap. I literally woke up the morning after the first shot with energy. I didn't even feel like I needed coffee. I drank an entire jug of water before having coffee, whereas normally I would stumble downstairs and feel like I could not function without coffee. And at first I thought it was a coincidence, but it has literally lasted the entire time. So less inflammation, significantly more energy. Yes, there is an appetite suppressant aspect of this, but honestly, I'm eating about the same amount. I just feel like, whereas before I was craving like caffeine or sugar, which was probably because of the fatigue, that is not the case anymore. Yes, I have lost a couple pounds. I don't really want to make this about a weight loss thing, but that is part of what this medication does. It has been 2 weeks and I've lost like 8 pounds, which I honestly think a lot of that was the inflammation. I feel so much better. I feel so much better. I guess that's it. I don't know. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. I'm hoping to come back every week and kind of give some updates, because I know for me, when I was trying to see what people's like week to week experience was, I saw a lot of people reporting back after a couple of months, but I wanted the in the moment stuff. So I feel pretty okay. I will say I have been really hardcore about hydration and electrolytes, because I did hear if you're dehydrated that you feel worse. So if you happen to be starting this journey, drink a lot of water, electrolytes, eat protein. Okay, I'll report back next week.